She held a knife to the human's neck, then whispered, "Please, save my baby." The dust was thick in the air, floating like slow ghosts across the broken floor. Marcus stepped over a cracked support beam, his boots crunching old wires and dry leaves. The abandoned supply station creaked under its own weight, metal groaning like an old man in pain. He had been walking for 3 days through dead land, looking for food, water, and maybe a working radio his scanner had picked up. Signs of life here. But now it looked like a trap. He kept his hand near his belt, where a small laser cutter hung. The lights inside the station flickered weakly. Powered by an ancient generator, shelves were turned over. Supply crates opened, nothing useful left. Then he heard it, a breath sharp and shaky. Behind a rusted cabinet, he turned, just as a figure leaped out fast but trembling. Cold metal touched his throat. It was a knife, shaking in the hand of a tall alien woman. Her skin was a soft purple gray, her eyes wide and glowing faintly. She looked exhausted, her cheekbones sharp from hunger, her clothes torn. "Don't move," she hissed, voice breaking. "I don't want to hurt you." Marcus didn't flinch. He raised both hands slowly. "I'm not here to hurt anyone," he said, keeping his voice calm. "I'm just a scavenger." The woman didn't lower. The knife, her other hand, pointed behind her. On the floor, wrapped in old cloth, lay a small bundle. A baby, tiny, quiet, not even crying, but something was wrong. The child's skin looked pale, and its small chest barely moved. Marcus felt something twist in his gut. "Please," the woman. Whispered voice, trembling even more now. "Save my baby." Marcus blinked. She had a knife to his neck, and now she was begging for help. "What happened?" he asked gently. "I stole from them," she said, eyes darting toward the broken doorway. "They're coming for me, for the child." "Who's coming?" Marcus asked, lowering his hand slowly. "I can help, but I need to know what's going on." She finally pulled the knife back, her hand falling to her side. "I'm Solari," she said, almost in a whisper. "They called it a test. A chance to save my people." She walked back to the baby and knelt beside it. "I was told he would be strong. A new kind of life," she said, brushing the baby's forehead with her shaking fingers. "But when he was born, they said he was a failure, not what they wanted." She looked up at Marcus. "So I ran." Marcus stepped closer, kneeling beside her. The child looked barely alive, thin and cold. "Your baby needs heat and food," he said, pulling off his jacket. He wrapped it gently around the child, feeling the cold through the fabric. "There's a med pack in my bag." Marcus said Solari didn't stop him this time. He opened the bag and pulled out a small injector, pressing it gently into the baby's arm. The child let out a tiny cry, weak, but it was something. Solari closed her eyes, tears falling silently. "Thank you," she whispered. "I thought I would have to kill just to make someone listen." Marcus looked at her, confused and curious. "You're not the enemy," he said, "so why are they chasing you?" Solari hesitated, then whispered, "Because this baby. He's not just mine. He's part of something forbidden." Before Marcus could ask more, a loud crack echoed from outside. The door shuddered as something slammed against it. Solari grabbed her baby and stood, panic in her eyes. "They found us." Marcus stood too, pulling out his laser cutter. "Stay behind me," he said, voice firm now, as the door began to bend inward. Solari looked at him one more time. "Please." She said again, "If I die, promise me you'll save him." Marcus looked at the child, at Solari. At the broken door about to burst open, something inside him shifted. He didn't know why, but he nodded. "I promise," he said, just before the door exploded in sparks and fire. Smoke filled the room as metal pieces flew in every direction. Marcus dove forward, grabbing Solari and the baby, shielding them with his body. Sparks lit the walls. And then came the sound-heavy boots, crunching debris, robotic voices echoing like cold machines. Solari covered her child's head with both hands. Her eyes wide with terror, Marcus rolled to the side and aimed his cutter, slicing through the broken shelf and bringing it crashing down between them and the attackers. "Back exit," he growled. Pulling Solari to her feet, she hesitated only a second, then followed him, stumbling over the wreckage with the baby pressed to her chest. They burst through a maintenance hatch at the rear of the station, sliding down a dusty slope that led into a dry ravine. The sun was setting fast, casting red light across the wasteland behind them, the air filled with the hum of tracking drones. Marcus's heart pounded. They were not just soldiers, these were elite hunters. They didn't speak much, but the way they moved, fast and silent, said they were trained to capture without mercy. He turned to Solari as they ducked behind a collapsed fuel tank. "Why didn't you tell me they were armed?" "With drones?" Solari looked down, ashamed. "If I told you everything, would you still have helped?" Marcus didn't answer right away. He stared at the tiny baby now wrapped in both his jacket and Solari's cloth. The child had survived the injection, but its breathing was still faint. "We need to move," Marcus said finally. "I know a place to hide, but it's not close." They ran again, crossing cracked ground, climbing broken pipes, hiding in shadows. Hours passed. Or maybe just minutes. It was hard to tell. Every sound made Solari flinch. Every shadow made Marcus reach for his cutter. When they reached an old fuel station buried under sand, Marcus waved her down. "Here," he said, forcing open the steel door with a creak. Inside, the air smelled like oil and rust. But it was safe at least for now. Solari sank to the floor, her back against the wall. The baby had started to cry, a soft, strange sound, not quite human, not quite alien. Marcus crouched beside them. Opening a ration pack, he offered her a small food bar. She took it with trembling fingers, but didn't eat. "What makes your baby so special?" he asked, finally breaking the silence. "Solaris." Hands tightened around the bundle. "There was a lab on my homeworld," she whispered. "They were working on something. A weapon, they said, but it was alive." Marcus frowned. "A weapon?" "They wanted to mix human DNA with ours," she said, "to create something strong. Something fast, something that could survive any war. But it didn't work." She added, her voice quieter now, "Not until me." Marcus blinked. "Trying to understand, you mean? That child is part human." Solari nodded slowly. "And they said he was defective," she said, her voice cracking. "But I looked into his eyes, and I knew he wasn't a failure. He was alive." Marcus leaned back, feeling the weight of it all. If what she said was true, that baby was not just a child, but a secret. A living creation that could change everything. And now they were being hunted for it. A sudden beep came from Marcus's wristband, a proximity alert. "They found us," he said. Standing quickly, Solari stood too, eyes wild, cradling her child. "Tighter, no more running," Marcus said. "We need to fight back." Solari looked at him like he was crazy. "You can't stop them," she whispered. "I'm human," Marcus said, his voice low and steady. "They think that makes me weak." He picked up a broken pipe and connected it to a power cell, turning it into a makeshift shock weapon. "Let's show them what a weak human can do." Outside, shadows gathered, and red lights scanned the air. The enemy was closing in. But Marcus and Solari stood side by side, no longer strangers, just a man and a mother, ready to protect a child the universe wasn't supposed to see, and the war for that baby's life had only just begun. Rain started falling, soft at first, then heavier, as if the sky itself was warning them. Marcus crouched at the edge of the broken window, watching shadows shift across the sand. The tracking drones weren't just scanning anymore, they were searching with purpose. They knew someone was inside. Solari held her baby close, her arms wrapped tightly as if her heartbeat alone could keep the child alive. The baby was warmer now, breathing steadier, but still weak. Solari whispered to him in her language. The words soft and full of emotion Marcus couldn't understand, but could feel. Marcus whispered, "We stay here, we die." Solari looked up, wet hair falling into her eyes. "Then, where can we go?" she asked. "Every planet out here is under surveillance." Marcus looked away, his eyes scanning the old station walls. Then his hand moved to the floor, pulling open a rusted panel below it. A ladder disappeared into the dark. This place used to be part of an underground transport tunnel, he said. Long ago, before the war. Solari hesitated, then nodded. They climbed down together, the old ladder groaning with every step. The air below was damp and thick, the tunnel lit only by Marcus's wrist light. They walked in silence, the baby's breath the only sound between them after a long stretch of darkness. Marcus finally spoke. "You said the baby isn't fully alien. He's part human." Solari stopped walking, her voice quiet. "Yes," she said. "They used samples taken from prisoners during the last human war." Marcus's steps slowed. "You mean people like me?" "Yes," she said. "But not just for war. They wanted something more, a new species, something that could survive both human and alien worlds. They wanted him to be a weapon, a perfect child who obeyed." Marcus's eyes narrowed, and he didn't. Solari shook her head. "They said he was too emotional, too soft, not what they planned." "But I saw something else," she said, her voice growing stronger. "I saw life, hope, not a weapon." A sudden noise echoed in the tunnel, a deep hum vibrating through the metal walls. Marcus pressed Solari against the side of the tunnel, crouching low above them. Distant sounds of footsteps echoed from grates in the ceiling. The hunters were scanning the underground now. Marcus whispered, "We need to move fast." They kept going, turning into a narrow shaft lit by old emergency strips. It led to a hatch sealed by a biolock. Marcus placed his hand on it, but the scanner blinked red. "Locked," he muttered. Two old Solari stepped forward. Pulling something from her belt-on ID chip, she pressed it into the panel, and the hatch hissed open. Marcus stared at her. "That's military tech," he said. "Where did you get that?" Solari didn't answer right away. "I wasn't always a mother," she whispered. "I was a soldier, part of the same program that made him." Marcus's breath caught in his throat. "You were one of them?" "I was trained to destroy your kind," she said. "Until I saw what they were really doing. I saw children in tanks, experiments failing, no one caring. I ran and took him with me." Marcus looked at the baby again, seeing him differently now, not just a child, but a stolen miracle, born from war and hidden from monsters. They stepped into a deeper chamber, where old machines lay in dust. Solari sat down, cradling her son. Marcus found an old console and tapped it, trying to restore power. The lights blinked, flickered, then came on, revealing something they hadn't expected. In the center of the room was a stasis pod, empty, and next to it, a medical screen still glowing with data. Marcus walked over. Wiping dust from the panel, it showed scans of a fetus, mixed DNA, human and alien, dates, notes, and something even more disturbing: coordinates. Solari saw it too. "They knew he survived," she whispered. "They've been tracking him since birth." Suddenly, the console beeped. An automated signal had just been sent. They had been found. Again, Marcus grabbed her hand. "No more hiding," he said. "We take the fight to them." Solari looked up, eyes burning with fire instead of fear. "I'll protect him, even if it kills me," she said. Marcus nodded. Not alone. And in that dark, forgotten room, surrounded by ghosts of a secret war, a human and an alien mother prepared for a battle neither of them asked for. But both were willing to fight, because the child between them was more than blood. He was the future, and the galaxy wasn't ready for him yet. The air was thick with heat as Marcus guided Solari and the baby out of the tunnel system. They emerged into the outskirts of a ruined industrial zone where rusted towers rose like skeletons in the haze. In the distance, machines long dead whispered in the wind. But something about the silence felt wrong. It was too quiet, too still. Like the land itself was holding its breath. Marcus led them to a structure half buried in Sandan old shipping hub once used by smugglers. He keyed in a passcode at the side panel, and the gate creaked open. Revealing dim lights and dusty crates, Solari stepped inside cautiously. Her child still asleep, though his tiny hands twitched now and then. They found a small resting room with faded couches and cracked screens. Solari sat down, brushing sweat from her forehead while Marcus checked the security feeds. Then a voice came from behind him. "I was wondering when you'd crawl back here." Marcus turned fast, aiming his tool blade, only to freeze. A tall man stood in the doorway, armored. Chest plate dented, face marked with age and battle scars. "Corin," Marcus said tightly. It had been years since they'd spoken. Too many lies had piled between them. "You're in trouble," Corin said, drifting toward the alien woman in the corner. "Figures you'd show up with company. She's not my enemy," Marcus replied. Stepping between them, "She has a child, and we need help." Corin laughed, bitter and cold. "You always had a soft heart for lost causes," he said, walking deeper into the room. "But this isn't just a mother and her baby, is it? You know who's hunting them, don't you?" Marcus didn't answer. Corin walked to a nearby terminal and tapped into it, screens lighting up with bounty alerts. Solari's face appeared first. Then the baby's no name listed, just a price, a very high one. "She's worth more than a starship," Corin said. Dead or alive, Solari stood now, holding her child close. "You told him about us?" she said to Marcus, voice cold with betrayal. "No," Marcus said quickly. "I didn't," but Corin smiled. "You triggered an old distress signal when you activated the console down there." He said, "The system alerted every bounty network in this sector." Solari backed away, her eyes full of fire. "You were supposed to help us." Marcus turned to Corin, anger rising in his chest. "We don't want trouble, Corin," he said. "We just want to disappear." Corin's smile faded. "I can't let that happen," he said softly. "Not when the whole galaxy wants what you're hiding." He moved fast, drawing a stun rod and stepping toward Solari. But Marcus blocked his path, blade drawn, eyes locked. "Don't," he said. Corin raised an eyebrow. "You'd fight me over her?" Marcus didn't blink. "I'm not fighting over her," he said. "I'm fighting for what's right." For a moment, neither moved. Then Corin chuckled, stepping back. "You've changed," he said. "But not enough to survive this." He tapped his cum, and suddenly alarms blared through the building. Outside, dropships descended from the skies. Engines roaring, Solari grabbed Marcus's arm, panic in her voice. "They're here," he nodded. Heart pounding, they had been betrayed. Again, but this time, they weren't going to run. Marcus rushed to the back room, pulling open an old crate full of weapons left behind by smugglers. He tossed Solari a pulse pistol. "Can you shoot?" "I was trained to do worse," she said, checking the charge without hesitation. Corin stood at the entrance now, watching as armed bounty teams poured in from every side. "You're surrounded," he called. "Just hand over the child, and I'll make sure you both get a quick death." Marcus looked at Solari. Her face covered in dust and sweat, but her eyes were sharp and ready. The baby in her arms stirred, making a soft sound that echoed louder than it should have. "Ready?" Marcus asked. "Ready?" she whispered. The old hub exploded into chaos as the first shots rang out, but Marcus didn't think about escape anymore. He wasn't just protecting a child, he was protecting something bigger, something the galaxy wasn't ready to understand. And if this place was where they would make their stand, then so be it. He would fight, even if it meant dying beside a stranger and a child not of his blood. Because in that moment, nothing else mattered. Blaster fire lit up the shadows like lightning. Marcus ducked behind a cargo crate as shards of metal sprayed across the room. The bounty hunters moved with brutal speed, shouting orders in languages Marcus didn't recognize, but he didn't. Need translation, he saw the way they circled. Tightening the trap, Solari crouched beside a fallen pillar. Baby pressed tight to her chest, her pistol gripped in one hand. Her arms shook, not from fear, but from the weight of her choice to kill if she must. To protect what was never meant to live, Corin's voice echoed again over the speakers. "You've got 30 seconds before this place is ash. I'm giving you a gift. Marcus, don't waste it." Marcus stared at the child. Now, whimpering softly in Solari's arms, he remembered something from his past. A battlefield on Earth, a child under rubble. He had carried that boy 2 miles through fire and rain. The boy had lived, the war hadn't. He gritted his teeth and stood, firing 3 precise shots, knocking down 2 hunters. Solari moved behind him, fast and silent. They darted through the back hallway, each step louder than the last. "We can't outrun them," she said. "Not with him. I'm not trying to outrun them," Marcus said, turning a sharp corner and sliding open a secret door hidden behind old crates. "I'm taking us straight through them." Behind the door was a control room lined with dusty panels and ancient shields. Marcus shoved aside a rusted locker and opened a hidden drawer. Inside was a small box with a red Marcus signal beacon. High frequency, military grade. He looked at it for a second, then crushed it beneath his boot. Solari's eyes widened. "That was our chance to call for help." Marcus shook his head. "No. That beacon was how they were tracking us. It was here the whole time." She stared at him, her face unreadable. He handed her the baby, then began working the old control panel. "If I can override the emergency gate, we can flood the lower level," he said. "Create confusion. Give us a path, then what?" She asked. "We run," Marcus said. "One last time." She nodded. No more doubt in her voice. Just the quiet strength of a mother who had nothing left to lose. A loud rumble shook the building, followed by another explosion. The hunters were inside now, breaching room by room. Marcus slammed his palm onto the control pad. Lights flashed red as old security doors snapped shut across the hallways, sealing the attackers inside with rising floodwater. From the far corridor came the cries of surprise and anger. Then silence, broken only by the hiss of escaping steam. Now, Marcus shouted, grabbing a weapon and leading the way through the escape tunnel at the far end. They moved fast. The tunnel floor slick with damp earth and oil. At the other side was a wide cavern, an old starport landing pad buried under dust and vines. And there, covered in moss but still intact, sat an old scout-class ship. Solari froze. "That's a human ship," she whispered. "Yeah," Marcus said, already powering it up. "Mine." The engines growled like a sleeping beast, then coughed to life. He climbed into the pilot's seat, slamming switches with practiced hands. Solari sat behind him, holding her child's eyes locked on the stars above. Then something moved. A figure stepped out from the shadows near the ship. Corin, wounded, bleeding, but still standing, his weapon raised. "I told you, Marcus," he growled. "You can't save them." Marcus aimed his gun, but hesitated. Corin had once saved his life, back when things were simpler. But now, things were not simple. Corin aimed at Solari. "I have to do this," he he said. It's orders, no. Marcus replied, it's a choice. The shot rang out one blast, clean and sharp. Corin dropped to his knees, gun slipping from his hand. He looked up at Marcus, not angry, just tired, then fell. The ship lifted off, slowly rising above the ruins. Below, fire and water swallowed what was left of the old station. Solari sat in silence, tears slipping down her cheek. She didn't cry for Corin or the hunters. She cried because for the first time her child was safe. Marcus looked at her through the reflection of the console. You're not alone anymore, he said softly, and with that they left the past behind, flying into stars that had never seen a child like the one sleeping in her arms. The stars looked peaceful from inside the ship, but Marcus knew peace didn't last long in this part of the galaxy. He checked the fuel levels, scanned nearby systems, and ran a dozen silent calculations. Solari sat quietly in the passenger seat, her baby asleep in her arms, small chest rising and falling gently. But her eyes never closed, not even for a second. She watched space like it might betray her again after everything they'd escaped. She didn't trust silence, and Marcus didn't. Blame her. They had left Corin behind, left the fire and betrayal. But what they carried wasn't just a child. It was a secret the galaxy would never stop chasing. Where are we going? She asked softly, breaking the quiet Eden gate. Marcus replied, not turning from the controls. A hidden colony, neutral ground. It's not on any public charts, but I know the path. Solari looked unsure. Can we trust them? Marcus finally glanced back, his eyes tired but certain. We can trust the woman who runs it. She saved me once, a long time ago. The ship entered subspace, and stars stretched like liquid light. Time passed differently, they're slower, heavier, full of quiet echoes. Marcus let Solari rest while he watched the scanners. But rest didn't come easy, not for either of them when they finally dropped out of subspace. A green planet filled the viewport. It looked like a gem floating. In the dark lakes, forests, a small city nestled in cliffs, Eden Gate. As the ship descended, an automated warning blinked on the screen. Unregistered vessel, identify or be denied. Marcus tapped the mic, Eco 7 returning. He said, requesting landing permission, passcode Delta Black. A long pause, then a voice came through, calm and sharp. Eco 7, you're 5 years late. Marcus smiled slightly. Yeah. I tend to show up when trouble follows. The landing pads opened, and the ship lowered gently into a quiet bay built into the mountainside. As the engines powered down, Solari clutched her child closer. Is this really safe? She asked, her voice softer than before. Marcus opened the hatch, and cool wind blew in. Carrying the scent of trees and damp stone, he turned to her. It's safer than anywhere else we've been. A woman waited outside, tall, gray-haired, wearing old combat armor that had been patched 100 times. Her eyes were sharp, but there was something kind behind them. Marcus, she said simply. He nodded. Captain Reva. She looked past him at Solari. Then the baby. Her expression didn't change, but something in her posture softened. You brought more than trouble this time. Marcus said nothing. Solari stepped forward, wary but proud. I don't want charity, she said. I just want a place where he can live. Reva stared at the baby for a long time, then gestured. Them inside. Come on, she said. You'll want to hear what the council said about children like yours. Solari froze. You've heard of him? Reva nodded slowly. The universe is smaller than you think. They followed her through the stone corridors into the heart of Eden Gate. It was a strange place, part city, part fortress, filled with beings of every kind, all living in quiet harmony, and yet it felt fragile, like one loud breath might shatter it. Inside a dim chamber lined with glowing crystals, Riva turned to them. "There's a reason this colony is hidden," she said. "We protect those who don't fit the rules of the galaxy, your son. He's not the first hybrid they tried to create." Solari's face went pale. "There were others." "Yes," Riva said, "but none survived more than a few weeks." Marcus looked at Solari. "Then the baby, still breathing, still alive. Then." "This one's different," he said. Riva nodded. "He's not just different." She whispered, "He might be the key." Solari's voice broke. "Key to what?" Riva stepped closer, to ending the war that never really ended. To proving that life between species can exist not as weapons, but as hope. Silence fell heavy between them. Outside, the wind howled through the cliffs as if the planet itself listened. For the first time in her life, Solari didn't feel hunted. She felt something close to hope, and she wasn't sure if that made her safer or more afraid. The days at Eden Gate passed quietly, but silence didn't mean peace. Solari sat by the edge of a quiet stream inside the colony. Watching her son's tiny hands reach for glowing insects in the air, he laughed a soft, strange sound, not quite human, not quite alien, but it was life, and it was beautiful. Marcus stood nearby, arms crossed, always watching. He had stopped looking for escape paths. Now he looked for threats and for answers. Riva met them again inside the council chambers. Her voice low and serious. "There's been movement in the sector," she said. "The lab where your son was made. It's been reactivated." Solari's hands curled into fists. "They want to start over." "No," Riva said. "They want him back." Marcus stepped forward. "Then we destroy it." Riva looked at him. "That's suicide." Marcus didn't blink. So was saving him. Solari stood slowly. "Let them come," she said. "I won't run this time." But Riva shook her head. "They won't come with soldiers," she said. "They'll come with offers, promises, lies. They'll say he belongs to them." Marcus stepped forward. "He doesn't belong to anyone." Later that night, Solari held her baby close. Her voice just a whisper. "I named you Kale," she said. "It means light after war in my language." "You weren't meant to live," she whispered. "But you did, not because of science," she said, "because of love outside." The sky shimmered as two sleek ships descended quietly above Eden Gate. They didn't fire, didn't threaten. They came with clean uniforms, open hands, and smooth voices. Marcus and Solari met them at the landing pad, surrounded by Eden's guards. A tall woman stepped out, eyes cold and professional. "We've come for the child," she said. "He is property of the Galactic Cross-Biology Division." Solari didn't answer. She simply held Kale tighter. Marcus stepped forward. His voice calm but iron-sharp. "He's not a test subject. He's a person." The woman smiled gently. "Emotion is a poor reason to reject destiny," she said. "With our help, he could become the future." "He already is," Solari replied. "Without you," the air grew still. Riva walked up, placing her hand on her weapon. "This is neutral ground," she warned. "You step forward again, and this becomes war." The woman studied them all, her gaze lingering on the baby. Then she turned without a word and walked back to her ship. No fight, no blood, not today, but the message was clear. This was not over. As the ships disappeared into the sky, Solari looked at Marcus. "What do we do now?" He looked down at Kale, who blinked up at him with glowing eyes that held galaxies in them. "We raise him," Marcus said. "We teach him who he is, what he can be." "Not a weapon," Solari whispered. "No," Marcus said, smiling softly. A reason, years later, stories would spread across systems. Of a child who grew into a leader, of a woman who risked everything for life, and of a human who fought without fear, not for glory, but for one fragile hope. And it all began with a knife, a whisper, and a promise. "Please, Save my baby.